Hello, from the other side of Modi'in. My name is Daniel Rose, and I'm happy to give a short idea on Leil Seder to share with you. I find it very difficult to say anything intelligent that's not framed in the words of Rabbi Sachs, so let's start there. But this quote that I'm going to share with you has really informed my life as an educator, not just the way I look at Seder night, but my life as an educator and possibly all the professional work that I do with Corin and the Rabbi Sachs legacy, trying to encourage parents to see themselves as parent educators. And Leil Seder is the night of the parent educator, or parent educator warrior, as I like to say. So this quote here, I'm sure we've all heard it before, but I'd like to share it with you again and frame what else I'm going to share with you right now. This comes from Rabbi Sachs' Haggadah. The Israelites were about to go free. 9 of the 10 plagues had already taken place. For the 10th, they knew would be the last. According to the biblical account, Moses gathered the people and instructed them on the preparations they were to make. By any standard, it was an epic moment. For 210 years, the Israelites had been in exile. They'd experienced suffering, slavery, and attempted genocide. Now they were about to begin the journey known to history as the Exodus. What would Moses say? He might have spoken about freedom or the promised destination, the land flowing with milk and honey. He might have chosen to speak about the arduous journey that lay ahead, what Nelson Mandela called the long road to freedom. Any of these would have been the great speech of a great leader. Moses did none of these. Instead, he spoke about children and the distant future and the duty to pass on memory to generations yet unborn. About to gain their freedom, the Israelites were told that they were to become a nation of educators. That is what made Moses not just a great leader, but a unique one. Freedom, he was suggesting, is one not on the battlefield, nor in the political arena, but in the human imagination and will. To defend a land, you need an army, but to defend freedom, you need education. You need parents, families, and homes, and a constant conversation between the generations. The Seder night is the paradigm of the parent as educator, the parent educator warrior, I like to call them. We dream about every Shabbat table and Shabbat meal being like Seder night, but Seder night is where we learn how to do it, perhaps, and it's the night where I think all parents realize their role as educators. Our challenge is to realize that during the year as well. So that's how I'd like to start. I'd like to frame my idea here. I think that more than just realizing that we are parent educators and not outsourcing the role of educating our children to schools, which we all do to some extent, but primary role, the primary agency or organization or institution of education, of Jewish education, has to be the home. And those are the ones that Rabbi Sachs listed there. To defend the land, you need an army, but to defend freedom, you need education, parents, families, and homes. He doesn't mention schools. So that's a really important point. If Seder night is the night where we really understand that, Seder night can also teach us what the paradigm of good Jewish education is. So I'd like to learn a Rambam with you very briefly. Rambam teaches us in Hilchot, in Hilchot Chametz U'Matzah, Perek Zayin. He gives us an entire manual on how to run a Seder. Most of it is based on text from the Seder itself that he then says this is how we run a Seder based on the Bala Seder, the person that put the Seder together. This is what they had in mind. And he starts in the first halacha in Hilchot Chametz U'Matzah. He starts with the following: Mitzvat Aseh Shel Torah L'Saper B'Nisim V'Niflot Shenasu L'Avatim Mitzrayim L'El Chamisha Asar B'Nisav. Now, interesting, he uses the word saper, sipur. We could, and the Haggadah, it could have been lahagid. Certainly, it could have been lilmod, ululamed. It could have been likro. It could have been many other things. There's something very unique about a story. I think any of us who've been at Madruchim or have been impacted by Madruchim know that the story is a fundamental tool in the educational toolbox of pedagogy, and I'm going to argue that Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, Sipur is an experiential tool for education. That when a story is told well, the listener becomes involved in the story, imagines themselves in the story. It's an experience itself, and that's really what's going on here. Now, this is really interesting because Rambam makes a hekesh between Pesach and Shabbat. Shneimar Zachot Yom Hazeh Asher Yitzatem. That's from Shemot Yud Gimel Gimel. That's talking about Pesach, and then Kama Shneimar, just like it says with Shabbat, Zachot Yom HaShabbat. You should remember Shabbat, and he's drawing a hekesh between Zachot and Zachot, but he doesn't explain what that teaches us. So I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that Shabbat is the most experiential day, and just like I, as an educator, could never truly teach my students about Shabbat without having them experience Shabbat. I can teach them Hilchot Shabbat, and we can learn Gemara Shabbat, we can learn the history of Shabbat, we can even learn practically how we keep Shabbat today or how people keep Shabbat. But until you keep Shabbat, you don't truly understand it. So just like Shabbat is the ultimate and experiential education, so our Leil Seder needs to be the same. Let's skip down to the last sentence. And even if you don't have children, and even if you are chacham, even if you understand this material inside and out, there's still a mitzvah to do Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, and elaborating and elongating the story. That's how is Meshubach. Now, I'm a true believer as an educator in less is more. I really believe that. But on Seder night, it's different, because when you're telling a story, the more detail, the more depth, the more beauty, the more chance there is that we're going to understand and experience the story, and it's gonna enter directly into our hearts, into our neshamot, rather than it being an intellectual exercise. Seder night is not an intellectual exercise; it is something that we do with our souls, with our neshamot, and that's what I think we should be doing on Seder night as parent educators. We should be educating the souls of our children. We should be creating an experience for what education is. Rambam continues to talk about all the different ways that we experience the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim on Seder night, through telling the story, but also through many other things that are obvious, eating matzah and maror and leaning and all those ideas. So wishing everyone a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. We should all be matzliach in being parent educator warriors on the night of Seder, in creating an experience that our children will remember for the rest of their lives.